Everything is changing, growing, and evolving, even you. From the nurse's student to the baby nurse, off the bedside nurse and into entrepreneurship, you have evolved. So now we're here at the Evolved Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Lakeisha, and let's get right into the episode. On today's episode, it will be a little bit different. While our next guest is a nurse, she is also a yogi or yoga instructor who I've been following for years, back when I was extremely intentional on mind body balance. She is such an inspiration, a nurse, an entrepreneur, content creator, and a mom of three, two of those being twins. Let's welcome Dara the Pint-Sized Nurse, the Evolved Nurse Podcast, and let's talk about health.
Hello.
Hi. So, here at the Evolve Nurse Podcast, if y'all have listened before, you know our first question is, did you always want to be a nurse?
Yes. So I always knew that I was going to be a nurse. I didn't know how I was going to go about it because I had my daughter so young. I had her at 17 while I was still in high school. So the traditional straight to college after high school wasn't going to be the path.
Mm-hmm.
But I just always knew I wanted to be a nurse. My grandmother and my father were always in and out of the hospital due to diabetes and heart issues and stuff like that. So just seeing the nursing staff and how well they cared for my family when I was there at such a young age, it kind of just stuck with me. And I was like, I want to be that person that, makes the hospital stay a little bit smoother and just like help families. So it was something that I always knew I wanted to do.
Okay, so it was always it was a pain point for you. Like you saw your family going through these health issues, and so you wanted to be what you received.
Right, right.
Okay, that is so great. Oh my goodness. So, let's get into what your nursing journey looked like. What did it take for you to get there? Because you already have your baby, you're 17, you're figuring life out. How did your nursing journey look?
So, I want to say about like 24, 25. Like I was going through like work changes and things like that. And my mom was like, Dara, leave everything in Jersey. Come move with me to New York. You
Mm-hmm.
won't have to worry about anything. Like you won't have to worry about working. I'll take care of bills and everything. You just focus on going to school. And at first I was like, oh my God, I can't pass this opportunity up. Like, who would say no to this? And
Exactly.
and like, are you kidding me? That was like a gift, essentially.
Free
So
housing.
right, exactly. I don't have to worry about bills, groceries. Like me and my daughter are gonna be okay. Like, are you serious? So of course it was a little like hesitation at first though,
Mm-hmm.
because leaving Jersey, leaving my dad and being close to him, leaving all of my friends and everything that I'm just used to and accustomed to, I was a little bit hesitant, but ultimately I knew that was the move that I had to make. And I was lucky enough to find a program that allowed me to do my nursing prerequisites while I was doing my nursing courses. So most schools and colleges, they make you do those 2 years of like English,
Mm-hmm.
science, and everything before you can even apply to nursing school. But I found a college in the Bronx, Monroe College, that I mean, it's a private college, very expensive, but if it wasn't for that school, I don't know how I would have gotten through the process of getting my
Mm-hmm.
nursing degree. Because they just made the transition so easy. And it also is a college that it's more catered to older people who aren't coming straight out of high school. So that also made the transition of going back to school a lot smoother and easier. The professors were super supportive, like all the staff was super supportive. So my journey into like going back to school for nursing was not as stressful as I expected it to be. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful, like I said, to finding that school that I found, because I don't know if I would have had 2 years. I mean, my mom, she was not in a rush to get me into
Jump out the
working
house.
to pay. Right. Exactly. She wasn't in a rush for me to be like, to put me back to work and help pay with bills and anything like that. She wanted me to do what was going to be beneficial for me and my daughter on a long-term basis versus like a short, quick fix. But the thought of having to do 2 years of prerequisites before I could even start
Mhm.
my nursing courses, I was just like, oh my God, I'm dreading this. But again, that school was just, everything just fell into place the way it needed to at that time in that transition for me.
And I'm so glad that it is a school out there that caters to those who have children, because most of the time you see people going back to school, they have kids, they have jobs, they have
Mm-hmm.
a life that has to be like, you have to keep up your life outside of school. Most nursing schools don't cater to that.
Yep.
They cater to the new student whose parents pay all their bills, and nothing
Mm-hmm.
is wrong with that. You know, I would be setting my children up for that as well, but that is what these schools are set up like, and it's almost to create a system to make these nurses feel incompetent and also place them in a space of stress. Because how am I
Yep.
going to get my kid to daycare, come to school, do all of these things, and still maintain a household?
Yep. And that's the one thing I will say, the class, like my nursing cohort, for my LPN to RN program, I
Hmm.
want to say out of 25 of us, only 3 were in their teens straight out of high school. Everybody else in our group was either changing their career path. They had like a previous degree in something else and they were switching to healthcare, or they were like me, where they were out of school for a few years and coming back to school for like their first degree. So it catered to, just that need of helping adults go through school versus helping teenagers transitioning into adulthood while going to school.
Yeah, look, that is a program that's needed. I do feel like there should be more, because this is the first program that I've heard that is structured in that manner.
Yeah, no, I swear by that program, and I tell any and everybody, if they are in New York or have the access to go and the ability to go
Hmm.
there, because on top of that, you have professors who genuinely want to help you. Like, you have some nursing schools, and I've heard horror stories from other people, like,
Hmm.
you don't get you don't get a review before your test. And for anybody in nursing, those exams will drive you crazy.
What?
Those exams are
Priority over first? Like, what do
okay.
you
Your
mean?
ABCs, your multiple choice questions, all of the answers are right, but it's but it's
But
not
which one
right.
is more right?
Exactly.
I don't.
Exactly. So the professors there were like super, super helpful in a way that I don't think they would have been in a traditional like nursing program setting.
Okay. So you have had your baby, you've decided to go back to school, you have now graduated this program. Did you go like, so the whole thing around nursing is teachers push for students to go med surge. Was that your first step?
It was not. So I did a bridge LPN to RN program. And
Hmm.
um after I finished my RN courses, before I took my NCLEX, I started applying to jobs. My first nursing job was outpatient methadone clinic.
Okay.
I literally was just like, I'm going to apply to any and everything, and whatever I get into is where I'm going to be. I wasn't harping. My professors were like, get into med surge, get at the bedside, keep all your skills, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
But I was like, I'm ready to get back into working now. And I was like, I'm just going to take whatever I get.
Hmm.
And my first nursing job for 4 years, the first 4 years of nursing, I was in outpatient methadone clinic.
So how did you feel about being in a methadone clinic? Because I know most people are extremely judgmental of the people that are coming in, because as much as we say that nursing is not supposed to be biased,
Mm-hmm.
even nursing school, the way the books are set up, the way that they teach these things create biases.
Right.
So how did you feel about going into the methadone clinic?
I didn't have any like preconceived notions before
Hmm.
I started. But once I was there over time, it just was eye opening to realize like we're all one dire or drastic situation away
Mhm.
from potentially being like someone coming to a methadone clinic. You know, people get hooked on opioids from injuries at work.
Mhm.
Somebody has a bad back injury, and then they're given oxys for the back pain or Percocets for the back pain. You can't get any more of those because you've extended the time frame that you're supposed to be on it, and then you switch to street drugs. So
Mhm.
it's such an easy cycle to fall into, um, and that's one route, you know. And then you have the other route where there could be a death in a family that triggers a mental health crisis for you that causes you to be codependent on narcotics. So it was eye opening to me, and it allowed me to have a little bit more empathy
Mhm.
than I expected to have, because it you never know what's going to trigger a mental health crisis or cause you down a path of addiction. It's really sad how it could just be triggered by the death of a parent. You
Mhm.
know, I saw that a lot. Um, but I'm glad that I didn't go in with preconceived notions, and I was able to see my patients for who they were. Granted, you know, at an outpatient methadone clinic is very quick interaction.
Mhm.
They're at your window to get medicated, and you talk to them for maybe like 2 to 5 minutes, if that. But within those interactions, you get to humanize them in that time. And because they're in these facilities all the time, they don't get humanized often.
Yes.
Right. So it allowed me to be a little bit more compassionate and softer with people who probably get dismissed all the time.
Yes. So being a child of a parent who struggled with addiction throughout their lifetime, my dad is now transitioned, but to understand the things that he has gone through has been
Mm-hmm.
a life-changing thing for me. Growing up and empathizing with people who were like him and being able to understand that people are multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they may struggle with addiction, but they are all these other things as well.
Yes, that
And
is so
then
true.
and then nobody wants to be an addict.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are struggling internally, and like you said, a parent's death could trigger that, or war could trigger that,
Mm-hmm.
PTSD. There are so many things that people are going through, and so for for you to be able to humanize people a little bit more, for me to be able to have empathy through my own individual journey with having a parent who struggled, there are so many people who never get in contact with that,
So,
and
yep.
and those biases remain. So when they have patients coming in who have pain, even if they aren't addicted to medication, they still feel like they're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
So those biases, they have to be changed. I have no idea how it's going to happen because we preach not being biased in school, but our statistics in these classes, in these books, are always biased.
Right. Yep. The books and the literature has to change. Like it
Hmm.
has to. Because even if you look at something simple as like when you're going through like pediatrics or like any or dermatology, when you're
Hmm.
looking at skin conditions, you never see what the skin conditions look like on
Oh no.
brown skin
Yes, and
in
it's
textbooks. And then, so how can you properly diagnose something if you don't know what it
mm,
looks like?
you can't. And that's how we continuously get misdiagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
or when our symptoms show up as different than other people. So my pain might be at a 10, but I'm still up and functional and talking. But because
Right.
I've been dealing with this pain for so long, when I tell you it's a 10, but I'm speaking to you, you
Mm-hmm.
automatically in your mind go, she's not in pain.
Right. Right.
Or even our statistics on, I don't know if you've noticed this, but our statistics on HIV. Like my book had that nobody other than black people had HIV. Black people and
Really.
Hispanics. Yes, nobody else. And so when I think about statistics, because I come from a biology research background, and I think about majority and minority and how we are considered the minority. So if we're looking at, say, a research population, and you have 10 black people, and five of those black people have diabetes or hypertension, And then you have 100 of another race or white people, and it's 50 of them who have high blood pressure, diabetes. Both of those are 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like there's a misconception of like statistics or how we're supposed to look at these things, because when I'm reading my books, and they always like to put on the test. So, students, if you're listening to this, if you're doing a test and they're asking you the question, what population is most likely to have blank?
Mm-hmm.
It's African Americans.
Yep. Yep.
That's your answer.
Hypertension, heart disease.
High blood, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that we don't struggle with that in our community, because we do, but to say that we are the only people and almost the only people who struggle with that is
Right.
untrue.
Right.
And so that creates a biases for
Mm-hmm.
nurses. And when we go into places, we don't see a lot of people who look like us. So
Yep.
obviously, they're already looking at us with eyes of bias.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So after your stint to the methadone clinic, what did you do?
So after the methadone clinic, I did a quick little 8-month stint in inpatient psych.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal with that was and I went through a staffing agency with that. So the goal was, okay, I'm going to be a staff nurse through a staffing agency for a year, and then like apply internally to the hospital and switch units or whatever. That was the goal. That didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just what I learned from inpatient psych, and it's so sad. Psych is just one of those specialties that is kind of like pushed to the side, or is
Mm-hmm.
like one of those last resort concerns, for the medical field. It feels like, and it shows on the unit. It shows with the staffing, and your staff isn't safe,
Yeah.
essentially. And that was the reason why I left. Throughout the 8 months that I was there, I would hear about, oh, the nurse on day shift got coffee thrown on her. The aide on the third floor got punched in the face by a patient. So you would constantly hear things. And then,
Until it happens to you.
right. And then it finally happened. I came in, and it's one of those things like you always know when you go into your unit or you go into work, it's going to be a day. And it
Mm-hmm.
was one of those days I walked on a unit and I was like, okay, this is going to be a day. It was only me and my charge nurse. We had a full unit of patients.
Oh no, that's already unsafe.
Exactly. And we had our aides, our support staff was there. But as soon as I got in the unit, and I worked overnight. So like when I got in, it was like, okay, I get my report and then it's get ready for night meds.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I got in, I saw this one patient. I could tell she was agitated, and she was just pacing, super agitated. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just keep my eye on her, whatever. She got super agitated, got confrontation with the charge nurse. Charge nurse asked me to medicated her. And as soon as I took the needle out of her arm,
Yeah,
she clawed my face and bit support staff. And I was like, you know what?
it's
This
over
is
with.
Yep. I was like, this is my exit to go. And mind you, I only had outpatient methadone and the inpatient psych as my work experience at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I went home that morning and I applied to any and everything. I didn't care if I had the qualifications for it or not. I was like, whoever calls me back and
I
whoever
love
I
it.
interview and offers me a job, that's where we're going. And I actually ended up being at a pediatric private practice.
Okay, and
to
that's different from methadone to
very,
psych to peds.
very different. And that's where I've been for the last 8 years. I was like, you know what? I like it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
parents are crazy every once in a while. You get some kids who don't want to be at the doctor's office. They don't want to be vaccinated. That's fine. But I will take that over the politics of being in a hospital and dealing with administration,
Mm-hmm.
being short staffed and worrying about your safety, worrying about your
Your
license
license.
your license
Mm.
in a different way that I don't have to worry about being in a private practice. I mean, skills get lost, but that whatever you can learn those skills if you go into a different facility, or if you change positions.
Oh yeah, it's like
It'll
daily
come
life.
right, exactly. It'll come back to you like clockwork. But I was like, this is where I'm at right now.
Yes, your job, your job experience has been the definition of it will be what it will be.
Absolutely. Yep.
Let's just get out here. I'm like that too. As soon as something happens at work, like if my boss shows some type of like racism or something, I'm like, hold on. How long has this unit been like this?
Right.
Okay, so I might not make the change, but I'm gonna send this to HR so that I can start the change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for me to leave.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, I will put in an application anywhere, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, requirements don't matter because they might see me as being, my experience might be what they're looking for. I don't
Right.
know.
And you know what too? And I think something that, like, especially if, like you said, if you have new nurses that listen to this podcast,
Hmm.
don't be discouraged from applying to jobs, whether you have the qualifications or not,
Hmm.
because there are places and facilities that will hire you because you don't have qualifications or previous experience, so that they can train you the way
Hmm.
that they want you to be trained, versus having somebody who has 20 years of experience who's probably stuck in their ways,
Yes.
versus the nurse who has 2 years experience who's more teachable. So
Hmm.
keep that. I think that's something to keep in mind too when applying to jobs, because you always want to be teachable regardless of how many years of experience you have. But sometimes once you get in your ways, and you know
Yeah, because
I
what
think
is
we
evidence-based practice?
mm-hmm.
I've been doing this like this for so long. Well, it's not supposed to be done like that anymore because studies show that it increases infection. Well, I'm not doing it any differently.
Right.
So, yes, that is so true. And I never thought about it on that scale either, that they would rather you be teachable because it is hard to teach
Mm-hmm.
somebody. I even, whenever I'm going into a new job, I have to tell myself, like, Keisha, regardless of whether you have experience here, it's a new place. They may have new policies. So allow yourself to be teachable because we always
Mm-hmm.
have those moments. At my last job,
Right. Oh, I used to do it like this.
yes, and
Mm-hmm.
that is simply not how they do it. So you do have to be teachable and you learn new things that way. And then when you're orienting and you get on your own, you're able to take what you want from your preceptor
Mm-hmm.
and then revamp it into what you feel like your practice should look like.
Yes. It's so funny because, like, I've been at my position for so long, and I've had to train a few nurses that have
Hmm.
come in since I've been here. And I always give them like a little standard of, like, okay, this is what we do and this is the flow of our day. But I always try to make sure to reiterate to them, like, listen, do what's going to make your day flow the easiest. Like,
Hmm.
create your own system. Like, you don't have to follow anything to the T the way that I'm showing you how to do it. If you feel like doing it a different way is easier and you still get to the same end result, by all means, do what's going to work for you and make your day as seamless as possible.
Yeah, because look, your day, getting to work and doing this might be cake to you,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be a drag to me.
Right.
Like paperwork, it might be a drag.
Yep.
Like I'd rather be I was a manager, so I would be like out on the floor helping my staff, creating new systems for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then like at the end of the day, like, oh my goodness, I gotta turn in these reports.
You're too busy being too good of a people's manager.
Yeah. And they're like, Miss Lakeisha, like you do so much for us. No other manager has cared this much. But I'm in my office now trying to catch up on this paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like everything is different for everyone. Some people will stay in their office, do their paperwork, never come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't I don't see how that helps the staff, but to each its own.
Right.
Not really, y'all need to get out there and help y'all staff. But
It needs to be a happy balance,
it
though.
needs
You
to be a
need to,
happy balance.
so that your staff can know that they're supported from management, and you're
Hmm.
not just a paper pusher pushing down, because sometimes you get those managers who are just in the office and they don't know what the flow of the floor work looks
Mhm.
like, right? So they're just telling you to do what the higher ups have no idea
Yes.
about. And at least when your manager is on the floor with you, at least from time to time, they could be like, oh, okay, I see how this isn't going to work, even though
Mhm.
my bosses are saying it should be this way. I see how it doesn't function that way, right? You're able to vouch for your staff in a way that someone who's just pushing paperwork can't.
Yes, and because we're supposed to be the liaison between our staff and upper
Mm-hmm.
management.
Right.
And so I feel like that ball is dropped a lot, and I saw that often during COVID, where we were extremely overwhelmed. We were just opening up units on units on
Mm-hmm.
units and just placing people. And I remember one time in particular, I decided to leave the floor because I was on a fully COVID unit and it became too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to transfer into the operating room. But as soon as I decided to go into my Periop 101 course, they shut down the OR and put me back on the floor.
Wow.
And when they put me back on the floor, Dara, they put me into this unit where it was like a few rooms, but it was like the ER, how they were moving patients in and out. It was me and one other operating room nurse who had never worked on the floor, and they wouldn't give us a CNA.
That is insane. And
Yes,
so unsafe. And so unsafe.
so unsafe. So I took it to upper management and I was like, hey, this is unsafe and I'm trying to protect my license. I can't continue doing this. And he was like, why not? I had somebody in med surge decline accepting an eighth patient. I said, I would have declined too. I said, it is time for y'all to come out of your offices and get on the
Mm-hmm.
floor.
Especially during COVID. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Like,
but no, they're walking around the hospital. They're so not in touch with what's going on the
mm-hmm.
floor. And because it already looks stressful, we're already looking stressful. Why would I want to enter into it?
Right. Right.
So, yes, you do have to have a happy balance because while I was out there overdoing it and in the office running amok, like, please don't knock on my door, people. I know that y'all knew it, but don't knock on my door because I gotta finish this. But yes, during all of that time, I really found that I struggled with my mental health in nursing school as well as in work and having that balance. So, this is the episode that we're creating, and it's around mental health and physical health. And you are a yoga instructor.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that journey looked like for you? So, we're pivoting into that.
Sure. So, oddly enough, back to like the whole nursing school thing, is when I started to get into my wellness,
Hmm.
like being more aware of like how I take care of myself. Because a big thing for me was like, how am I going to advocate for patients or like give patients education, and if I'm not doing things that I'm trying to get them to do, right? It felt very hypocritical of me in a sense. So that started the whole like wellness, taking my health and wellness seriously. And I found yoga in the process. And it really was just, me wanting to be more flexible and adding something into just like my gym routine. And I absolutely fell in love with yoga and just the peace and the calm that I found doing the practice. Um, but then with that, it also allowed me to find like this community of dope black
Hmm.
yogis on Instagram that I had no idea, other people
Existed.
existed, because yoga is always marketed as, the white housewife thing to do.
Hmm.
You don't see us in yoga or in those spaces. But finding the online yoga community when I did, and just like not seeing us represented, I definitely knew I was like, okay, I want to get certified to teach so that I can be like some representation for us, for to get more people who look like me into these spaces. Because if anybody needs some yoga and some stillness and some calm and ways to de-stress, it is us. It is
Yes. Oh my
black
gosh.
people, black women. We have such high levels of stress and high blood pressure because of the stress that we carry. And indescribable ways that people who don't look like us can relate to.
Mhm.
Like just creating those yoga spaces, and it's transformational. It does wonders for people.
I was so glad because I found you maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I was in nursing school struggling and decided to go on a journey of like mental health and balance. And so I started doing yoga, meditation, and I'm like, okay, so who can I follow? Who can I follow and where can I follow? Like, where can I find these people? Because one, I would be on YouTube looking for things, and I found one Faith Hunter. I don't know if you know who she is.
Yes, I do. Faith is amazing. I've taken classes with her before too.
So
She's so awesome.
yes, so I was like, that's the only person on YouTube that we know who has an active space in YouTube. I've seen some other people, they weren't as consistent as her, but she has like
Hmm.
30-day yoga, 30-day meditation challenges, and all of these things. But when I found you and some of the other people on Instagram, it was like a whole new world opened up for us because now I see all of these people who look like us, who do yoga, men, women, all of these
Hmm.
people with locks and you know, everybody's just doing their own thing. And so it created a space for me to relax and decompress. So can you tell us some of the benefits of doing yoga?
Absolutely. So of course, the physical benefits, right?
Mhm.
Yoga is a workout. So you're moving your body. You are you can, depending on the style of yoga you do, you can lose weight. You can tone yourself. They have hot yoga.
Mhm.
They have power yoga that's like more aggressive type of yoga
Ooh,
practice.
look, I found out I was pregnant doing power yoga. I was
Oh,
like, "Hold on, man, you are moving too fast, and
mm,
it's hot in here." I was
yeah.
just sitting there on my mat, just looking at people go.
That's the beauty of yoga. Your instructor will be like, sit, move at your own pace. And if you want to stop, you can stop. There's no need to keep going.
I was like, "Why do I feel? I never feel like this." It just felt like he was doing hit. I was like, Is it a such thing as hit for yoga? Because oh my goodness."
That's too funny. But in addition to like the physical benefits, it's so beneficial to just the mind.
Mhm.
You're relaxing, you're learning how to decompress. You allow yourself to lower your stress levels. Brain function increases too, like your memory and things like that. So there's so many layers to how yoga can benefit you outside of just the physical practice. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that there when you study yoga philosophy, there's actually 8 stages, 8 steps of yoga, right? And the physical practice is one of 8, and it's not even the first one; it's the third on the
Mm.
list of 8, right? So it's so many. It's so layered how yoga can be beneficial to you.
Okay. So, for students who feel like I don't have any time to like be throwing yoga into this studying and like I'm overwhelmed with everything that's going on, how would you say that they can structure their time around doing yoga?
So, like I was just saying, yoga is so much more than just a physical practice, right?
Mhm.
So you can do yoga without moving your body, right?
Mhm.
Just having a conscious awareness that you're like, if if you if you're in a position where it's like, okay, I don't have time to do anything else, I can't add anything else to my schedule. If you drive or your commute to and from school or to and from work, use your commute to like listen to meditative music,
Mhm.
right? Listen to something spiritual. Landrell is a great spiritual artist that a lot of yogis that I know love to listen to. Um, Podcasts that are talking about mental health. So things like that bring just awareness to be more present and in
Mhm.
tune with what you're doing and having more intention to just idly like let music play that you're not really listening to or paying attention to.
Mhm.
Just bringing your attention and your awareness is practicing yoga, right? It's just like turning on the light switch a little bit, right? Because sometimes we just coast,
Mhm.
and I can't think of the word that I want to say because it's not coast, but sometimes sometimes we're just an autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
right? And doing yoga and being in yoga is turning off the autopilot,
Okay.
right? Bring the awareness, turn the awareness on. And that's essentially what it is. So
So
even if,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No.
so I was saying, so even if you, so even if you don't have the time to be like, listen, okay, my day starts at 8. I'm on the road to go to school, and then I'm in school from 10 to 3, and then from 3 to 5 or 3 to 8, I'm picking up kids and doing homework
Mm-hmm.
and getting ready for bed. And then by the time I'm done, like I'm crashing. Take those moments where you're commuting to and from school or to and from work. Take those moments where you're commuting from to and from school to pick up kids. Take those moments, even with the kids, let them listen to some stuff or let them listen to some meditative music, something that doesn't even, and it doesn't even have to be specific meditative music. It could just be like some instrumental music, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
natural sounds or something like that. Because that can help you get into a place of learning how to be more still, more calm, and just being able to decompress and not hold on to so much stuff that you have going on throughout the day.
Okay. Now, look, I'm in learning something because I've only thought about yoga as a physical practice.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about intentionality, mindfulness, being present, but also being relaxed as being a practice of yoga. But now that I think about it, when I'm like, say, for instance, listening to a motivational podcast that allows me to relax, but I'm still being mindful, I never thought that that was a practice of yoga.
It is. Because the point of yoga is to get us to a state of, what's the word?
Homeostasis.
Yeah, and
Calm.
like a state of calm, and like a
Mm-hmm.
state of, the best way to say it right now that's coming to me is like at a state of wusa. Right, right. So if
Yeah.
you've taken a class, right, you do, the whole point of taking a yoga class is to get to the end of it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're moving your body so much so that you can be still at the end of the yoga class. The meditation is the point. The shavasana at the end of class is the ultimate goal of all the moving that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Because I
So
was in yoga this week. I was in yoga this week and I was like, oh my goodness, she got us flowing in here. But it's like, she's like, we have one more until we hit the mat.
yep.
I'm like, okay. And that is the point where everything is calming down. You're in
Mm-hmm.
your emotions. You're mindful, yet you're still calm. You might cry because y'all did some hip
Right.
workouts.
Right. But that state that you find when you're in shavasana at the end of class, you want
Hmm.
to be able to tap into that without having to always move, because we don't have the time to always move like that,
Yeah.
right? So how can we find ways to get into yoga without the physical part of it? And those are ways that we do it off the mat.
Oh my goodness. I'm doing yoga right now. No, I just really never thought of it in that way. And I'm glad that you said that because so many students struggle with that. And I remember struggling with tests and anxiety. And before my test, I would go up to people and they would pour all this information into me. That was probably wrong.
There's information overload. So,
Let's,
and my professor gave me the best advice, and it wasn't even like a primary class. Like it wasn't like fundamentals or med surge. My maternity professor, my L&D professor said, take time to read other books than what you're studying,
mm,
because that's going to allow you to retain more of what you're studying.
you know what? Never thought of that.
And you don't think about it when you're in the middle of it, because you're like, you
Wait a
want me
wait a
you
minute.
want me to spend 45 minutes reading something else when I could be using that 45 minutes to be
To
doing what I
study?
need to study, but I'm going to remember
No.
more. Like, it sounds crazy, but it becomes information overload and stuff
Mhm.
gets repetitive, and it literally like falls out because
Yes.
you trying to retain so much, and you're going over the same information over and over and over again, that you don't step away from it. But when you step away from it and come back, it's fresher and it
Mhm.
sticks better. And that's something my professor said that to me, and I that is advice that I give to this day. I've been out of school for more than 10 years, and I will say that all the time. That is like the best advice I ever got.
Yes, because I can say that my nursing school journey changed when I was listening to Les Brown, and he said, "You can't look at people who have anxiety in their eyes because they will then transfer their anxiety onto you."
Mm-hmm.
And so what I started doing is, see, my theme song during that time was Motivate by J. Cole.
Yep. That's a good song.
So I would put my headphones in, listen to Motivate. I would go away from everybody. I didn't want to talk to nobody. And I had to explain to my classmates that it's not that I don't want to talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
but in order for me to not internalize the anxiety that you have,
Right.
I have to take time to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that completely changed my grades. It changed how I thought about things. I went from like failed a nursing class, struggling, to making A's and B's. All because I decided to put myself in a place of mental awareness. And I think that J. Cole just motivated me.
That's a good. That is a perfect song to get through nursing school. Like I wish if that was a song that was out when I was in school, I definitely would have had that on the playlist. On the
Was
playlist
Devin,
for sure.
it wasn't even on a playlist, Dara. It was
It's
on
on
repeat.
repeat. I do not blame you. I don't blame you at all. You got to tune people out because that is so true. You will pick up on the anxiety and the concern and the worry of other people.
Yes, and it is so easy to do that. And you can see that even in study groups
Mm-hmm.
where one person has studied, they know the material, they're confident in it, and then you can have one person, they come in and they're just trying to gain information from everybody else. They don't know what's going on.
Yep.
And they have no idea. And now you're prepared and they come in, they're asking all these questions, and now you confused. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what they're talking about, but you're taking your test and now you're like, hold on, what did they say? What did they
Right.
say? And you're trying to pull from them because you're under the impression that they know what they're talking about and they have no idea because they came and they weren't prepared. You had no
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Yep.
So I am so glad that we talked about like the importance of yoga because nursing school is stressful.
Very.
It was the most stressful time that I went through a biology program which was also stressful but not as stressful as nursing.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz again those tests
Those
get you every time.
every single time. I tell people, I'm like, I don't know what other profession plays these type of mind games before you get your
Yes.
license, but listen,
Cuz
and
what are you trying to do?
why are you playing with my emotions like this? Why?
I don't know and I cannot make an excuse for these people because I'm trying to figure out if it's to make us critically think.
No, it's definitely that, because also it's just like, how, when that story came out about the nurses in Florida, I think it was, that didn't go through nursing school but
Yes, the
had the license.
liars.
I was like, so y'all sat through that test
And pass.
and
How?
passed?
How? Because they didn't care.
Like what?
They wasn't over analyzing the questions like this. They was
Like
like, this sounds
I
good.
was
This
like, how,
sounds about
Sway?
right.
How did that happen? How?
They said, you know what? This sounds like it's about right. So they went with this. Us, we like it's do or die.
It
We
really, yep,
like we're putting so much thought into it. And I saw like laissez faire people in nursing school who pass every test.
of course. It's
Like they were
always
relaxed. They were off Adderall. Like they they were doing everything they could to pass, and like the Adderall, I guess, made them like zone in during studying, and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, it is what it is when the test come. And I'm like, y'all are doing drugs and I am struggling.
Help me.
Help me, but I don't want the drugs. I
Right.
don't want them. So how do you get this effect without drugs? Can
Yoga.
you let me know?
Yoga.
And you know what? It is because you're able to focus more.
Yes. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
don't think ahead to the test, because I find that when you think ahead to the test while studying, you create undue anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For sure.
Cuz your brain cannot decipher whether you're going through this emotion or not.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
As soon as you think about it, it's like, we here. It's the present,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't even come yet.
Right. But see, and that's also a benefit of yoga. Like you learn how to just be so aware to be in the now, right? Because it, something I read before, like when we're anxious, it's because we're thinking ahead, and
Mhm.
when we're depressed, we're thinking about things that happened already.
Mm.
But when we're in the now, when we bring our awareness to now, like we don't drag ourselves into anxiety because we're not worried about what's to come, and we're not dragging ourselves into like this darkness or depression because we're not worrying about what has already happened, right? We let things be, we let things come as they go, and we just remain as present as possible.
You know, you just said a word. You just said a word. Oh my goodness. And you know, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that at the time in my life that I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
That needed to be said. But speaking of yoga, are you practicing now? Are you doing classes now?
I am not physically practicing now, and I'm not teaching classes now. Just with working and being a new mom, I'm still trying to figure out what my new normal looks like.
Yes.
So, like we've been talking so much about like yoga not being the physical, my yoga does not look physical at all right now. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, but I do, like I said, when on my way to work, because I do live in New York, I'm able to take public transportation, and my commute is a nice little hour and some change to and from work. I take advantage of that hour and change, and I'm doing something where, either I'm listening to an audiobook for my book club, or I am trying to or I'll listen to like just some meditative, calming music and just kind of sit in silence, because that commute to and from work is like, it's my solace. It's my quiet time, my me time that I get. And I try to take full advantage of that to just be with myself and do something that's gonna allow me to decompress, to relax. I recently started crocheting. That's something that
Yes.
I do on my way to and from work. I'm always on the bus with my little crochet bag like a little old lady. And I will sit there and crochet, to and from work. And I'm reading about that. Crocheting helps with your memory too, and helps with your
Mm-hmm.
brain, keeping your brain function sharp. So, that's something else that I'm doing on my way to and from work. But yeah, I definitely do need to get back into the physical practice of it, because I do miss, just the shape and the tone of my body physically when I
Mm-hmm.
was practicing yoga regularly. I just have to figure out again what that looks like with
With the
two
baby.
with
Two babies.
toddler twin boys running
Yes.
around and wanting to be attached at the hip all the time.
I don't know how they want to be off doing whatever, and then now they want to be under you. Like,
And boys are different than girls, because while my daughter was always like, oh mommy, I want to go with you, are you going to so and so's birthday party, I want to go too. Boys are different. I could go into another room and close the door, and they are like at the door on the floor trying to talk to me under the door. The clinginess is a different
it's
level with boys.
real.
It's
It's
very
real.
real.
I have no idea how it is to experience having a girl, but yesterday my baby was in my skin.
I feel
I
like
was
if they
like,
could go
"What's
back into the
going
womb, they
on
would.
today?" Yeah, and he stayed in me for so long. I was like, when is this baby gonna come? And my water never broke.
Oh my
So I was
goodness.
like, am I ever gonna have him? Like, what are these pains without this this water
He
breaking?
already knew. He was like, I just want to stay here forever.
I was like, he is in here big chilling. Like he was like, I'm never leaving. And since he is like attached to me, but he's very independent as well. Like he's
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna go and play. I'm gonna grab my book. Now I
But
want
don't
you
be
to read the book to me.
no, and don't be too far out of eyesight either. Because if he can't
Oh
see
yeah.
you, then he's not being independent. No,
Yeah,
no, he got to come
uh-uh.
find you.
He needs to be able to look over his shoulder, make sure I'm there.
Yep, absolutely.
And then he'll go about his day. But what are some of the things that you have like in store?
Well, right now, like I said, I started crocheting, so I'm
Hmm.
just like I'm selling some stuff crocheting. Um,
Entrepreneur.
yeah, a little bit. um, but I am dabbling in that, just like
Hmm.
basic accessories, some head wraps and things like that. Um, and I am trying to figure out what getting back into yoga and teaching is going to look like in the next couple of months,
Hmm.
because it has been showing up for me in different ways, and I'm just trying to again figure out. I'm like, okay, I can't keep ignoring the slaps to the
Calling.
face about
Yeah.
this. So
It's
it's like,
time to go.
right, it's like, how do we add this in? How do I like transition back into this space and find this balance? Because again, when I started doing yoga and I started teaching and was co-teaching on retreats and everything, my daughter was older,
Yes.
so I could just be like, peace, I got a retreat in November, I'll be back. You know.
Hmm.
And now, I mean, I have dad at home, but it's I still have like the mom anxiety too because they're so young, and I'm like, I don't
Girl,
want to leave my
let
babies
it
just yet.
go.
I don't want to
Yes.
leave them
I had to let my anxiety go with being a mom. And I
yet.
went to, and I don't know if you know about this, the Mom Fronts.
Yeah, I saw you posting it on your page.
It was so amazing. I was calling my baby. He cried on FaceTime. I said, I'm not FaceTiming you anymore. I will call your dad. I will ask how you're doing. He can show me you, but you cannot see me.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
like that would make me feel bad. Like seeing him
Exactly. Yeah.
crying and wanting me, like he's reaching for the phone as if he can hold me. And I'm like, I'm
Mm.
not there physically, baby, but mommy's having fun.
Right.
So
Right.
it is definitely something that we have to learn how to do as moms is learn the balance of being an individual
Mm-hmm.
and also being a mom, because
Right.
if we only make our identity as being a mom, we often forget about who we are.
Mm-hmm. We get lost in it. We get
Hmm.
lost in all the titles that we have, and then we forget once you chip away all those titles at the core, it's like
Who are
I
you?
don't know who this person is.
Hmm.
So
And so, yes, yes, go back.
I am. I am. I am.
I'll be
I
seeing you. I'll be seeing you doing your yoga stuff and creating light in people's lives where they feel darkness.
Absolutely.
But I love that. So I know that y'all, we have had a conversation before. This is not our first conversation. Initially, our first podcast was lost. It was chopped up. My mic wasn't working. There were so many things happening, but we have talked.
And this is so funny because before we started recording, we said, you know what, everything happens for a reason, and this is going to
Hmm.
be better. And this conversation, like, I feel like I didn't drop the gems that I dropped today,
Last
the
time
last time.
you did, but
I
not as
know.
in depth.
Oh, see, I don't remember that I
Yes.
did.
Yeah, because you just be talking, so you don't remember what you say. But
Hmm.
you definitely dropped some gems then, but today felt different.
I love that.
Yes. But I know that you don't read, motivational self-help books anymore. So can you let the people know what books you are reading? Because you're in a book club, right?
I am in a book club. So each month is a different title. The book club is on Instagram too. If anybody's looking for a book club to join, I love this book club. We meet twice a month, the second and the fourth Monday, and it's all Zoom. And it's people from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But This month we are reading a memoir, A Piece of Cake, by, I can't remember who the author is, but we just finished reading Black as a Black AF History, which
Oh,
was a history book of like history, but the Black version of history and how
mm-hmm.
like they whitewashed history, which was really
Yes.
good.
A
And
continuation.
right. And I'm also about to get into the third book of a really, really good series. I don't know if people know about it or not, but Tomi, oh, what is her last name? Ayemi. Tomi Ayemi, Children of Blood and Bone.
Hmm.
She had it's Children of Blood and Bone. Let me look up the second title. It's a 3-book series, and this third book has been on hold for who knows how many years.
Oh, that is
And the
so messed
third
up.
book, the
You're waiting
third
for
book,
it.
no, the third book finally came out this
Okay.
week. So I got the third book, and that's the book that I'm really, really looking forward to diving into.
So you started it at the right time where it wasn't as much agony around it. Because I've
Oh
had
no, no, no,
authors.
no. I read no. So Children of Blood and Bone came out in 2018 and I read it then.
Uh-huh.
Then the second book came out, I think the following year in 2019. So I reread the first book to get ready for the second book. Read the second book, was so happy, and then it was just like on the struggle bus waiting for the third book.
And then like you're continuously like looking up the author, trying to
Yes.
figure out if they dropped the book.
Oh my goodness.
Look, it is
Going through
such
withdrawals,
I
everything.
remember like being in high school and just waiting for my author to drop a new book. I was like on book 8 and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
when is she dropping book 9? Like I heard that it's out, but is it really out? And then she started dropping these like inserts and I was like, "Oh my god, she's not going to
Yep.
drop a book."
So we finally got book 3. So I'm really looking forward to that. The third book is called Children of Anguish and Anarchy.
Okay.
And the second one is Children of Virtue and Vengeance. But it's such a dope,
Mm.
it's a really, really dope series. African spirituality, and you know how certain groups of Africans don't want the Africans with their magic to be able to use their magic, and how
Mhm.
the Africans with the magic get their magic back. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, he's still in magic.
Yep.
Okay, I might have to read
No,
it.
it's so good. Yep.
Okay, but we are at the end of this episode. I truly do appreciate you for coming on to the podcast because really, and I say this in every one of them, you didn't have to come on, but you did. But one thing about it is the fact that we had to re-record this episode and you no hesitation. You were like, we can re-record it. And
Yep.
I
I
felt
told you. I
so
was like,
much
just
conviction in asking
I was
and
just like, let me
asking you
know.
that.
Just let me know.
But it was definitely meant to be. So if you could leave our students with one piece of information, what would that be?
Hmm. Be in the now, right?
Hmm.
Just stay present. Don't worry about what's to come. Don't worry about what's already happened. Just focus on what's in front of you at this present moment.
Oh my goodness. Another word from Dara. And where can we find you?
On Instagram, that's where I'm at the most. I don't really use too many other social media outlets,
Hmm.
but Instagram, Pint Size Nurse, PINTSIZENURSE.
Okay. Well, if you have reached the end of this episode, thank you so much for listening. If you have any